Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Anyone else out there getting deja vu? Just me? That's okay. Everyone, welcome into the Computer America program. It's going to be a fun show. We have a great one for you where we have the one, the only Mr. Ralph Bond. He'll be joining us here to talk about, well, science and tech trends. And if you aren't really sure what that means, don't worry, we'll fill you in. But suffice to say, it's going to be a number of stories that you probably haven't heard of, but you definitely want to hear of. So with that being said, computeramerica.com is where you'll find the show notes. Ralph puts a lot of energy into the show notes. Definitely go check those out because some of these stories, Ralph's going to give you the important tidbits, but you are going to want to know more, and computeramerica.com and those show notes are where you're going to find it. So, computeramerica.com is where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, reviews, anything and everything Computer America does, you can find right there. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and just bring Ralph on and have fun with it on a nice, relaxing Friday. Get you to do something else than look at your stocks because, okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. It's going to be uplifting. We promise. Ladies and gentlemen, so Ralph Bond, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
Boy, what a week it's been so far. Oh my goodness. Folks, what we're going to do, well, let me explain. What Ben and I do each Friday, if you're brand new to the show, welcome, of course. But here's the deal. What we do each Friday is highlight 4 recent articles that show us key trends and developments in a whole range of things from artificial intelligence, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, agricultural tech, space research, physics. Wow, you name it, all across the board. But here's the thing, especially what we need this week, most important of all, we're going to give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better way to start by seeing what we're talking about than story number 1. We're going to go on over and talk about maybe a way that people could go without glasses and, and so many other features that we're going to talk about. But, I mentioned this before on the show that laser eye surgery has been really, really good to me. I would encourage a lot of people to get it if you're able to get it. But for those who can't, your other options are either glasses, which, only a couple thousand years old technology, pretty cool, or contact lenses, which are, they themselves are a little low tech. And this company is trying to make them high tech. So, Ralph, story number 1.
Yeah, story number 1 comes from techradar.com. A long headline here, but fun. It really caught my eye, no pun intended. These smart contact lens prototypes could convince future me to ditch my glasses thanks to wireless power transfer and eye health biosensing. Irresistible headline, right? So if you have the show notes, you're going to be able to see references to this, links, and so on. But let me dive into this. The article highlights 3 innovative smart contact lens prototypes by a company called Panseo. It appears that the X, it's spelled X-P-A-N-C-E-O, and the X is silent. So Panseo, a company headquartered in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, which were featured at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona last month. So there was this big international Congress get-together trade show and so forth, and these 3 prototypes were highlighted. So let's get into the first prototype, innovation number 1, smart contact lens with a wireless powering companion. Wow, okay. The first prototype features a wireless power transfer system that allows the smart lenses to charge remotely from a compact companion device while ensuring safety through radiation levels akin to those found in common wearables. And possible features for such smart powered contact lenses could include night vision and zoom. And a lot of times, this sort of technology makes me think immediately of military applications. And there's many, many others too. But night vision and zoom alone would be just amazing.
Even for driving, let's face it, something like that would just be incredible. And I know that we've made references before to night vision technology of the past being this huge, cumbersome thing, and night vision of today is just, possibly just a contact lens thin piece of technology. Amazing.
Yeah. In fact, the reference I made, stumbling in my words on Friday morning here, to the night vision things. I watched that movie Black Hawk Down, which is a great movie, by the way, folks. And the guys, the team that went in to get Osama bin Laden had these big, bulky, multi-lens sort of night vision gear. Imagine that all down to the size of a contact lens. That could be pretty incredible.
For sure.
So innovation number 2. Biosensing smart contact lens. The second prototype introduces biosensing capabilities. It integrates nanoparticles to analyze tear fluid for biomarkers like glucose, several hormones, and vitamins. The idea is for the lens to act as a continuous, non-invasive health monitor. Wow.
I have heard not just through this technology, but in past, that, I have heard of glucose monitors in contact lenses. So I'm not saying that, they're not innovative for doing this. I'm just saying that it has followed other technology that I've heard of to help diabetics keep track of their glucose without having to continuously, jab themselves. So very cool.
Right. Exactly. And now moving on to innovation number 3 that was highlighted at this big trade show, smart contact lens with an intraocular pressure sensor. The third prototype is tailored for managing glaucoma, featuring an intraocular pressure sensor that provides real-time measurements via an AI-powered smartphone app, potentially offering critical early warnings for patients. Oh, wow. And get this, Ben. Additionally, at the trade show, this Pancio indicated there are hints from the company of future augmented reality functionalities. And if you're lucky enough to be looking at the video of our show today, you can see an image from the company that sort of suggests the kind of augmented reality projections that you could have through these smart contact lenses. In this case, we're looking at a cityscape, busy street, and the augmented reality is telling the user, oh, there's a place here where taxis will stop and pick you up, or over here is this information, or if you need this, go here, or here's how you can activate the apps menu, and so on and so forth. A really cool image that suggests where they're going with this technology.
Yeah, I think there are actually a few images that they show off here. Like here's one of the home, and you could kind of see levels of whatever throughout your house. Like there are a number of images that they kind of show, and it's not really dropping a hint when they have images like these where it's like they kind of intend to overlay information onto the real world. So makes sense.
And to wrap things up with this little article here, as Stephen Warwick, the author of the article, notes, although these prototypes are still in experimental stages and years away from mass production, they underscore a future where everyday items merge seamlessly with cutting-edge technology to deliver both health insights and enhance visual capabilities. Great way to sum this article up.
For sure. It's we're not there yet, Ralph, but it's getting to the point where what happens when, and this is a contact lens, which I actually really like. It's not so much like a replacement eyeball or something like that, but what happens when replacement, limbs and organs and whatnot, like what happens when technology is just strictly better than, could you imagine, like, would this be considered performance enhancing if you're using it for, let's say, skeet shooting and stuff like that, like in some kind of competitive sport. It's what happens when technology makes you better than baseline, like not even just, gets people with disabilities or impairments and gets them up to our baseline, but when, it improves beyond that. And That's a cool futuristic world. Definitely something to keep an eye on. So story number one, and a trade show from Dubai that's all the way across the world. Let's bring something a little bit closer here to, Cornell University. Is that in the UK or is that here in the US? I am so not up to date on my universities. But anyways,
USA.
USA, there we go. I'm Cambridge. I'm thinking of Cambridge, not Cornell. Woo. Anyways, from Dubai to the US, it makes sense with American Sign Language. Let's talk about, another wearable.
Yes, this is really, really great. This story is so uplifting. If you want to walk away from today's show feeling hopeful and better about the world thanks to science and technology, this story is for you. It comes from Popular Science. Headline, Wearable Ring translates sign language into text. Subhead, SpellRing, that's run together as one word, SpellRing, is trained on 20,000 words in American Sign Language. Oh, such a great story. So here, let's get into it. So this article highlights the development of a wearable device called SpellRing, created by researchers at Cornell University. This innovative ring uses microsonar technology and deep learning algorithms, there's your artificial intelligence, to translate American Sign Language finger spelling into text in real time. Let that sink in. So cool.
Yeah, and real quick for those who are watching the video portion, actually pull up the video. You can kind of see it there in action, and it's non-invasive would be a great word for it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, if you're lucky enough to be looking at the video, it just immediately you get the picture, so to speak.
Yeah.
So and in terms of goals, SpellRing aims to bridge communication gaps for the deaf and hard of hearing community by offering a compact and practical solution compared to existing bulky technology. So there are other technologies out there that can try to do this, translate the finger spelling into text and so forth, but it's been rather bulky, heavy equipment. Folks at Cornell are on a path, as you can see, with this little thumb ring to make it much smaller, much more convenient. So the device, worn on the thumb, emits inaudible sound waves and measures hand movements with a gyroscope. And these inputs are processed to interpret ASL gestures with an accuracy they have found through their testing of 82 to 92%, which is stunning, depending on the complexity of the words. And with further refinement, SpellRing may one day facilitate entire conversations regardless of your ASL comprehension skills. That's the bridging between the world of the deaf and all of us who are lucky enough not to have that disability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me wonder if, combining that even with AI in the fact that, let's say you had a model, Ralph, that just said continuously take what I say sentence by sentence and, kind of make sure the meaning is coherent. And, if it did nothing else, then even that 90% accuracy, 1 out of every 10 words is still a problem. Don't get me wrong. When we were talking about OCR, you need like a 98, 99% accuracy. So 92 is still really low, but even if you just use existing technology today and said, hey, make this comprehensible, even that I'm sure would be more than enough to get someone through a conversation using simply just this ring, which is amazing. So
yeah, good point, Ben. And again, remember, this is early research. They've just released their initial working and findings, and of course they'll go on to refine this, but here's how this works. Let's get into that. The principal component is a quarter-sized 3D printed ring casing that contains a small microphone and speaker and is worn around the thumb. When the user begins finger spelling, the microphone emits inaudible sound waves that are subsequently detected by the microphone as a miniature gyroscope measures the hand motions. Okay, that's cool. And meanwhile, a computer featuring a deep learning algorithmic program analyzes and translates the resultant sonar images into individual letters in real time on a computer screen. Now, right now, this is tethered to a computer, but down the road, I'm sure they'll miniaturize all of this stuff, maybe get it into a small device you wear in your pocket or shirt pocket or whatever, or on your smartphone maybe. And this is great. The Cornell University researchers trained SpellRing with the help of 20 experienced and novice ASL signers as they spelled out over 20,000 words with an accuracy, as we mentioned before, ranging from 82 to 92%. But what a great initial launch pad for a future that could be really amazing for this community.
Yeah, just another piece of technology that just closes the gap between those who use ASL and don't. It's very, very cool, and of course communication is key, so I like that one a lot. And to use sonar of all things, essentially a small microphone sonar kind of thing, essentially. I would have never thought, but hey, that's why I'm not at Cornell, which is in the US, which I totally knew the whole time. Story number 2. Story number 3, we're going to go ahead and get a little bit smaller, both in article size and in, I guess, kind of data. And I know we've talked about this before, Ralph, where I said, in terms of data density, which is a huge selling point to a lot of people, in terms of data density, I don't think there's a story that will ever beat this in terms of more data to a small footprint. So, story number 3.
That's right. Story number 3 takes us into the world of data storage technology. And I'm going to set things up by saying this is an extremely geeky deal here. So we have a link to the science paper if you want to get into that and so forth. We're just going to give you the bare bones highlights to hopefully inspire you to go and check out more information from the article itself and from the research paper. But here's the headline. This, by the way, comes from the Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering, their news posting at the University of Chicago. So I went right to the source for this story. Headline, Terabytes of data in a millimeter crystal. What? Millimeter crystal. Subhead, University of Chicago researchers created a quantum-inspired revolution in microelectronics, storing classical computer memory, zeros and ones, in crystal gaps where atoms should be. Okay, if that doesn't tell you this is super, super geeky, I give up. Talk about, you always like to say over your pay grade. Believe me, this is so far over.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so University of Chicago Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering researchers have explored an entirely new technique to make ones and zeros for digital information storage out of crystal defects, each the size of an individual atom. Wow. For classical computer memory applications. Just melts my mind, Ben. One of the researchers noted, quote, each memory cell is a single missing atom, a single defect. Now you can pack terabytes of bits within a small cube of material that's only a millimeter in size. And folks, remember a millimeter, of course, is 1/1000th of a meter to give you an idea of the scale. Wow.
Yeah.
And go on here, it says, the article and the research paper explain how this innovation used research coming from a field called radiation dosimeters. That's DOSIMETERS, radiation dosimeters, most commonly known as devices that store how much radiation hospital workers absorb from X-ray machines into groundbreaking microelectronic memory storage. So talk about a fascinating, you took technology from a field of radiation dosimeters used in hospitals and said, there's something about this technology that could roll over and enable us to make these incredible data storage devices on crystal. It's so weird. You have to get into the research paper. You have to look at other information to fully understand this. And believe me, it is way, way above my pay grade of mental ability, but a great story and really interesting in the world of storage.
It's in terms of storage, like I said, there probably is not much that could beat the amount of data in such a small space. The read-write speed is probably like 1, but that's okay. In terms of just showing the technology and what's possible, hey, maybe this could be rolled into something that you really need the data, forever enshrined. This could be it, because I'm sure, Ralph, because you're actually etching it into, into something. I'm sure the rate of decay, or like the rate at which this would be unreadable, would actually be very low. Like, I'm sure this seems like a very solid way to keep data. So.
That's a good point, Ben. Yeah.
Lots of different little applications, but hey, right now, early research and very cool stuff at that. So
yeah, it is another, again, a great example. We do trends, in science and technology. This is a good one. Early research, we'll see where it goes. But Ben, you make a really good point about archiving data in something that's probably could endure for millennia
Yep.
without
It
degradation.
it really reminds me, Ralph, of stories that either we did in the past or we just did on Computer America. They call it 5D optical data storage, which is where they etch data into 3D crystals, which has been happening since, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article here, since 2013, 2018, 2024. Yeah, there's been other research in this, but of course, this is something completely different. This is still crystals, but actually etching it into the atoms themselves. It's really, really
Atomic
crazy.
level. Yes, yes.
So story
very
number
good.
3, story number 4, we're going to go ahead and, from the minuscule to the minuscule, but this is an article, hopefully, maybe finding a way to give those of us that are aging a little bit of our muscle. Wait, don't raise your hand, Ralph. Don't say that. To give people their muscle back, because hey, muscle kind of makes living more fun. So story number 4.
Yes, this is great. And what we do often is end the show in terms of the articles we really pay a lot of attention to. This is a medical research and medical technology related story. This comes from medicalexpress.com, and it's actually news coming out of Tokyo Metropolitan University. Headline: Cellular scaffold enables myoblast implants on healthy muscle to advance regenerative medicine. So there's a lot going on here. We're going to step through this and walk you through this. Again, in the show notes, we have a link to, of course, the original article here, but also the research paper, which really gets into the details if you're so inclined. But this article reports on a groundbreaking regenerative medicine technique developed by researchers at Tokyo Metropolitan University for treating age-related muscular atrophy. Boy, I can relate. All right. Traditionally, here's the situation. Traditionally, the implantation of myoblasts, and you think to yourself, okay, Ralph, what is a myoblast? Well, those are cells that eventually mature into muscle fibers. So traditionally, the implantation of these myoblasts has required prior scarring in the tissue to induce or prompt a repair mode that facilitates successful grafting. So if you're going to graft muscle tissue, you have to first scar the receiving end of the tissue, as I
Which
understand it.
I'm sure not
invasive.
which I'm sure not only is first of all, for scarring sounds awful. Second of all, takes time. And I'm sure, getting that built up is, a real impediment to just treating this right off the get-go. So.
Yeah, right. So with that set up here's the contrast with what these researchers are doing. However, the new method circumvents this necessity, the scarring process, by combining myoblasts with an extracellular matrix fluid. There's a geeky mouthful. This extracellular matrix fluid acts as a cellular scaffold that supports the cells and provides biochemical cues that allow them to attach and integrate into healthy, unscarred muscle tissue, as demonstrated in experiments the team did with mice. So instead of having to scar the muscle tissue to set the stage for prompting of regenerative muscle tissue, they've come up with this solution that gets around that. You can go into unscarred tissue and prompt regenerative muscle tissue development. That's what we're talking about here. And we mentioned extracellular matrix fluid. Extremely geeky. I had to find out in the show notes. I inject some information I got from a Copilot AI research. You can dive into what that is if you so desire, but we're not going to spend time on that. We're going to move on here and say, in the Tokyo Metropolitan University study, myoblasts were injected along with extracellular matrix fluid into healthy muscle tissue. And the newly implanted cells were engineered to emit a green dye to track how they establish themselves and begin to grow or function in the recipient's body. Now, if you're lucky enough to be looking at the video, and of course, you can get to the video, come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes, get the link, and you can see the video for the show and so on. But you can see an image of the green dye in the muscle tissue that they're talking about. This was the way they were able to track how successful this process was going. And the researchers observed that increasing the concentration of extracellular matrix fluid enhanced the number of myoblasts that successfully grafted, indicating that the presence of extracellular matrix fluid is crucial for cell attachment and survival in uninjured muscle tissue that hasn't been scarred. This innovative approach has significant implications for addressing muscle degeneration in aging populations. By enabling effective cell implantation without the need for injury-induced scarring, the method opens new avenues for regenerative therapies that could complement existing preventative measures like exercise and diet. But again, get away from having to scar the tissue to set the stage for muscle regeneration using these fluids and the myoblasts and so forth. What a great advancement, a really, really important one for the aging population like me.
Yeah, I've noticed that, in keeping with our trends, Ralph, that turning back the age clock is something that, it's a little research article here about muscle. It's a little research article here about brain activity. It's a little research article here about organ health and being able to, make that get better. Like, Ralph, it's going to be a bunch of these little breakthroughs that is going to lead to someone living, to 150, 200 years and doing so gracefully, not just, hooked up to a bunch of, vats and computers. But no, it's turning back the clock in any way is always really, really cool. So unfortunate that mice get all the benefits, but maybe one day humans will learn from mice and be able to do it ourselves. So story number 4. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're following along in the show notes, you may notice there are more stories. You're like, hey guys, you're not done yet. Well, we kind of are. We try to keep the show a little bit shorter just for ease of listening, and we appreciate everyone who does that. But honorable mentions are stories that we just don't have time for. It's not that Ralph can barely find 4 stories, and that's all the good news there is in the world. No, there's other good, great stories that you should definitely check out, and Ralph's going to give you the headlines. And if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com in the show notes, and you can find it right there. So, Ralph, the headlines.
Yeah, here we go. We've got 4 honorable mentions, which is what we usually do every Friday. This one comes from tomorrowsworldtoday.com, fun outlet. Headline, U.S. firm develops solid-state battery with 25 times more capacity in 1,000 cycles. A good story about another innovation in the whole world of batteries. This is something that 24/7 worldwide researchers are scrambling to improve battery technology, and it's just amazing how many different flavors there are, and this is a good example, so check that story out. That's fun. Next one comes from timesofinnovation.com. Brazil launches world's first ethanol power plant to turn sugarcane into electricity. This is an interesting alternative power thing. And Ben, you can see right there, it's kind of funny, the little spelling issue, unless in Brazil, that's how they spell ethanol. I don't know. Again, if you're looking at the video, folks, you'll get the joke of what we're talking about there.
I will say, and because the article mentioned this is a Finnish company, ethanol is actually pretty close to etanoli, which is Finnish for ethanol. So,
well, there you go. I bet that's where it's coming from.
I think it's a bit of a translation error, but still great article. Check it out.
It is. It is very interesting. And the next one here comes from the outlet called The Cool Down. And the headline here is Startup cracks the code to create jet fuel in record time from an unexpected source. Novel technology, and they're talking about carbon dioxide and water as the source. We have seen a number of stories over the last couple of years of trying to extract fuel from carbon dioxide and water. This is a good example of that kind of technology research
and
river, if you want to call it that. But the key here is record time to pull it off. That's the thing that's going on.
Sometimes the breakthroughs that we talk about here on the show aren't completely new things, but sometimes it's just taking something that exists and making it much more efficient, faster, and easier. And that is a huge breakthrough as well. So,
yeah. And the last honorable mention is medical technology related and leaves me feeling great about where our future is, at least in terms of science and technology and medicine. So here's the headline from sciencealert.com. Headline, fetus receives life-saving medication before birth in a medical first. There's so much more going on in this story. Please come out to show notes at computeramerica.com and dive into this. This is very, very inspiring.
Absolutely. Delivering medicine to patients before, hey, they can really even, be patients. It's incredible. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, hey, computeramerica.com has all the show notes, as we keep saying. Come check it out, and yeah, you won't regret it. So with that being said, I hope that you do something fun this weekend. You enjoyed our show here today. Every single Friday, Ralph joins us to talk about a number, that number being 4, of different fun stories, and hey, you can always count on it. So with that being said, have a good weekend. We'll catch you next time here at Computer America. And Ralph, thank you again so much for doing this. Everyone, have a great weekend. Have a good one. Bye.